How you doing, everybody? It's Wardy here, and obviously I'm smiling cheek to cheek because how can I not, knowing Juan Soto's a New York Met? It's going to be really difficult to upset me all offseason long, I gotta be frank, and that's an amazing feeling as a fan. And as we get into our latest Big Mets update segment, we got some massive details that have come out over the past 24 hours, some little factors that certainly helped Juan Soto's decision to be swayed to land with the Mets along with a lump sum of, I don't know, $805 million, but we're going to get into those key details that have been reported over the past day, and how contrasting they are to Hal Steinbrenner and the Yankees' pursuit of Soto. From there, we're going to get into those same Yankees and how they're actively pursuing a Pete Alonso, especially after some massive news that came out today in the baseball world regarding players that they were actively pursuing. What is next for Alonso this offseason? Going back to the Mets, potentially going to the Yankees. We're going to cover the latest there. And then to wrap up the show, David Wright, my captain, your captain, all of our captains, he will be officially cemented forever in Mets history with that number 5. We're going to touch on that and more in just a little bit, everybody, so make sure to smash that like and subscribe button as you first chime in. Thank you so much for doing exactly that, and let us know your initial reactions to it all in the comments down below. Along with, thank you so much for hearing from our amazing sponsor at BetUS that has you covered with all your sports betting needs. You guys see it right there with BetUS.com.pa today. By using Wardy's promo code YouTube150, you can get involved in anything sports betting wise with a 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125 then on your second and your third, up to $2,000. What an easy $10 to win 100 bet on Roki Sasaki's future. I absolutely hammered biasly my New York Mets here at plus 1,000 odds. The Dodgers are the current money line favorite there to win the Roki Sasaki sweepstakes this offseason at minus 250, with the Padres just behind them at plus 200, led by Yu Darvish in that pursuit. The Yankees at plus 900, which I find kind of funny that they have better odds than the Mets, but I digress. That goes in hand with the Juan Soto sweepstakes too, to a degree, I'm sure. But the Mets here, again, a low risk, high reward situation we're betting on. If it doesn't win, that's perfectly fine. It just means Roki Sasaki will likely go out west, which has been a long-lasting belief to this point. But between having the same agent as Kodai Senga, which in this case is Sasaki with Joel Wolf, then being really impressed with the Mets pitching lab led by Jeremy Hefner, among other things, I like the Mets odds to try to get something done with Roki Sasaki, even as an underdog. So feel free to tail this bet, everybody, but please know I'm not a sports betting expert. I'm openly and biasedly betting on our New York Mets here, so let's see what happens. But as we hop back in this one, everybody, and again, thank you so much for hearing from our amazing friends here at BetUS. Let's get back in this one and talk about Juan Soto and to get into these details, because let's first highlight how contrasting and honestly how controversial this came off to some in reality as to what the Mets ultimately did here and Juan Soto and their connection, because Juan Soto came out with a famous quote yesterday that we heard plenty, and we're going to reiterate once more, and for a good reason.
Been in touch with anybody from your former team, and can you share what those conversations with your now former team, the Yankees, and could you share what those conversations might have been like?
I haven't talked to any of those guys. Definitely, we talked to them through playoff, at the end of the playoffs, but after that, I make these processes. I haven't talked to any of those.
So this is far from shocking to hear, if anything held true from Aaron Judge, what he said verbatim there that we heard in an interview around a month and a half ago, that no, he's not speaking to Juan Soto. He hasn't, and he doesn't intend to this offseason. He usually likes to keep guys in their lane in the free agent market, wants to have that respect level because it's a lot of pressure on the hands and the shoulders of Soto and his future, but he obviously made it known throughout the regular season heading into the end of their postseason run how much they would love to see Soto come back, and I'm sure Soto heard that not only from Judge, but many Yankees in the clubhouse at the time. That obviously wasn't an X factor, thankfully, in Soto coming to the Mets or not, but to expand further as to how contrasting this is from, say, a belief that one man in the industry, one specific analyst for a certain network, and they know exactly who that is out there. I'm not going to say names because I don't believe that they deserve the light of day for this, but they try to throw cold water on this, as they typically do when it comes to anything positive in Mets land, say, now this is standard practice, and there's really nothing to read into it from Soto not having connection with any former Yankee players once the offseason began. And while that may hold true to a degree, it is very contrasting from a report that we found from John Heyman of the New York Post just of yesterday, as you guys see here on the little details, and how the Mets were ultimately able to land Juan Soto. And some key quotes stand out to me right away, this time having everything to do with, yes, Brandon Nimmo. Listen to this, everybody. Brandon Nimmo, who, like Soto, is represented by Scott Boras, said he obtained Soto's phone number several weeks ago and texted him. Nimmo said he relayed to Soto that his experience with the team has been amazing. Funny, again, amazing, pun intended, right? And he wanted Soto on his team. And I quote from Nimmo himself, "I knew that David and Steve were doing whatever they could to bring him here," Nimmo said. "When the news finally broke, just extreme jubilation. I sent text messages to David Stearns and Cohen and said, I can't thank you enough for bringing him here." Furthermore, on Nimmo, he did say that he received a PRP injection on his foot within days of the Mets season ending. He's working out still around 4 days a week. He has yet, however, to do jogging and running. Things are trending in the right direction, which is a great thing. But as he said, and I quote, those are things with Planter that are unfortunately come a bit slower, Nimmo said, but we're at a point in the offseason where it's okay. We can give it some time and continue to load. If we keep heading in the right direction, I think we should have no problem come spring training. Nimmo, who will be commanding left field for the foreseeable future for the Mets, do not expect him to honestly get any better with the defensive prowess, because we know that he's going to be dealing with plantar fasciitis for the foreseeable future, and something that he's going to have to manage for at least a decent period of time, unfortunately. But the key highlight out of that was the Juan Soto connection. Brandon Nimmo, again, you heard it from the horse's mouth himself, spoke weeks ago to Juan Soto, reaching out to him and saying how much he would love to have him here. So obviously that was a positive interaction, and obviously Juan Soto interacted with not only Nimmo, but obviously also interacted with Francisco Lindor. Lindor was said reportedly to be a part of the negotiation process, to a degree at least, in the recruitment process of bringing in Juan Soto this offseason. He had that smirk on his face when Juan Soto was brought up. I'm sure that they talked to each other, even if it was just a text here or there. But those little things at times can go a long way, especially in trying to make you feel at home and trying to make you feel comfortable. And that is especially where I think another fantastic article that came out from Tim Healy of Newsday really highlighted beautifully from the impact of Steve Cohen had, and really trying to make him feel at home as much as humanly possible. As you see from Tim Healy's article, left to right, we see, "I wanted to get to a point," and I quote, that we're good people, that we care, and that we want to win a championship. That I'm always successful," Cohen said. "I wanted him to see my father-in-law is at every home game. I want him to see how important baseball is to this family. Alex grew up with him with one TV in her apartment, and that had the Met game on every night." From there, we also saw the implementation of not only Alex Cohen, Steve's wife, having a heavy factor in the hospitality aspect of handling Soto and his family greatly for the foreseeable future, but Josh, one of Steve Cohen's sons, who I assumed yesterday, as he shouted him out in the presser about that great video, I assumed it was that little video that was presented to Soto at Beverly Hills mansion of the Cohen family there in round one of the meetings, and that held true. But further details that we didn't know at the time that we now know is that in that special little video that Will Salmon of The Athletic highlighted in our live stream last night, check that out, folks, if you haven't already, at least 2 minutes and 45 seconds north of 3 minutes there in that video, that was the most favorite part for Juan Soto in the negotiation process, because at the end of the video, they showed Citi Field with not only Tom Seaver's statue there, but a statue of Juan Soto, further cementing how he could make history in this Mets organization and how we can do it from one family to another. The fact that the Mets rolled the red carpet the way that they did yesterday, so much so to having specifically 22 seats in attendance there in the Piazza Club for Soto and his family for number 22, are the little details that, again, really can become an X factor when you're trying to acquire a top talent. How can you have a proper pitch? Juan Soto emphasized yesterday in his presser how the further details, and when they really got down to explaining everything in great detail, how that really hit home for him, and those are factors along with the $805 million should the Mets avoid that that post year 5 option on his contract, where if they up it to say 4 more mil AAV from $51 mil to $55 million average annual value for the remaining decade of the contract, that there's nothing to worry about with that void. Again, little differences, and speaking of those differences, I also want to highlight them because we heard reports yesterday that out of the Yankees camp and Hal Steinbrenner, they reportedly offered that same type of contract to Juan Soto at $760 over 15 years with after 5th year opt-out or so, but it didn't include a void. So all the control would have been with Soto. So technically, there was more monetary upside if Soto took the Yankee contract, stayed healthy, and opt out 5 years from now. If he does that, then he can sign a 10 or 13-year contract again and to make as much high AV, if not more. He could be making, say, 60, 65, 70 mil AV at that point, given what the market will be so inflated by 5 years from now. So when we look at it from that way, it's further reasons to be very happy as a Mets fan that Juan Soto chose to come here. Those little differences certainly were an X factor. And this is a hunt that the Mets have been on for a while now, especially as I've emphasized so much for you guys how this goes back to the Dodgers 2 years ago, allowing Trey Turner to walk in others, knowing that a year later they would go scorched earth and would pounce on Yamamoto and Ohtani the best that they could. The Mets did the same exact thing an offseason ago. They didn't land Yamamoto, not for a lack of effort. They knew that they had a lot more dollars coming off the books heading into the 2025 offseason, and they knew that there was no one to really long-term invest on that fits just short of long-term bill outside of Yamamoto an offseason ago. They missed on him, not for a lack of effort. It goes to LA. They say, okay, let's make short-term moves, run it with these guys. We go 2 games shy of the World Series, and now let's go all in on Juan Soto. And as we see from these quotes that, again, that we see from Tim Healy of Newsday, left to right, these are conversations when David Stearns wasn't even officially hired with the Mets. In the negotiation process of the beginning, they had mentioned as a first starter to paint the picture for the Mets of their future from Steve Cohen that Juan Soto was included in those early talks a year and a half plus ago. And I quote, "We did know that if he was going to be a free agent," Stearns said, "we were going to make a very strong push." That pushed him all the way to the guys that we saw of the Piazza Club, named after one of the most iconic Mets ever, going on from there. Then we see to the right here, which I think really stands out from Scott Boras in this all, and the implementation that this has on so many other teams, how much this benefits the Mets as well. You hear it from the horse's mouth himself as Scott Boras. "The demand for Juan Soto exceeded the demand for any player I've represented before in this atmosphere of totality of a contract. I've had general managers tell me that if Juan Soto is in our division, I'm going to spend less because I have a lesser chance of winning. If he's going out of our division, I'm going to spend more because we have a greater chance to win." To hear that, knowing that respective GMs have said that verbatim pretty much, is insane, but it shows you just how much of an impact Juan Soto makes. It shows you how much of a first-hand impact he will have in the NL East for the years to come, to battle it out with Bryce Harper there, Trey Turner's former teammates. Then you look at the Atlanta Braves and Ronald Acuna Jr. between himself and Luis Angel, which I'm so excited about, and Matt Olson, and Marcell Ozuna. I'm Ozuna from the Braves, if you know, you know. And Austin Riley, and all the other pieces. Ozzie Albies, can't forget him, because when he's right, he's one of the better second basemen in Major League Baseball. It's going to be a bloodbath in the NL East. And the fact that Juan Soto not only took, yes, the money, all the other factors, but decided to go to such a power-heavy NL East in comparison to what is such a soft American League. Let's be blunt here, everybody. The American League does nothing in comparison to how deep the National League is and pure talent right now, and how, you know how top-heavy the American League is, and then you have a lot of mid. There are not many bad teams at all in the National League. Right now, you can only say in confidence that there are 2 truly bad teams in the National League, and that's the Colorado Rockies and the Miami Marlins. Everyone else is a fringe wildcard team, if not better. From the Pirates, who will be a fringe wildcard team next year, to the Cubs, in which we're going to pivot to the Cubs in a second, everybody, because listen, the polar bear Pete Alonso, we have to figure out a lot when it comes to his future. We know that Juan Soto wants a lot of protection behind him, which is why a reunion of the polar bear Pete Alonso that Steve Cohen said they're still actively engaged in, they hope that they obviously can get something done there, will in fact happen. Well, the Yankees swung and missed again. They tried hard for Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker, the coveted outfielder that's a rental in his final year of his contract there. Young, again, probably the best Juan Soto replacement you could find in the trade market, not named Luis Robert when he's fully healthy and when he's right. In the case of Tucker, though, after the Yankees heavily pursue him, they say no. We don't want to trade Luis Seal, which I honestly think was a stubborn thing for them to do, knowing how important landing Kyle Tucker and then trying to extend him certainly would have been a greater opportunity for that to happen over, say, Juan Soto in that situation from a year ago. But again, hindsight's 2020. It is what it is now. But still, the Yankees had a hard line in saying they wouldn't trade Heel, and because the Cubs had an offer that honestly I don't love at all for the Astros, headlined by Isaac Paredes and some prospects there. I love the deal so much for the Cubs, as now Kyle Tucker will be in that. And even with them having active negotiation right now with Cody Bellinger and the Yankees trying to pivot there, knowing that Kyle Tucker is now a Cub, Cody Bellinger could be on his way out there, still try to potentially part with that contract in which a team can eat the majority of that $25 million AAV for the next 2 years. Should the Yankees go out and land Cody Bellinger? Great for them. Okay, they found themselves an outfield option, at least for 2025 and going forward. But in the case of Polar Bear Pete Alonso, reports from this piece suggest that the Yankees are now engaged with Alonso and that the interest is supposedly mutual, according to the Yankees' point of view. I joked and said on Twitter how it feels inevitable that Alonso's going to play the Yankees like a fiddle and come right back down to Queens. Best case scenario is that Alonso negotiates long and heavy with the Yankees, allows Christian Walker to sign elsewhere, and then he says, yeah, I'm going to go back to the Mets. I think that's something all of us Mets fans would love to see happen. But the latest on the Mets in their pursuit of Pete Alonso is as follows. They're still actively engaged. They would love to bring him back, coming out of David Stearns' mouth himself throughout winter meetings. Steve Cohen said it yesterday that they're still actively involved. The Yankees are too, but let's be completely honest, everybody. Unless the Yankees go really desperate and give him an offer, say the Mets are by no means going to match of over $200 million, that's a 7+ year contract. Unless that happens, which I don't believe it to be, what makes you think Polar Bear Pete Alonso is going to look at what the Yankees have done in comparison to the Mets and say, I want to go to the Yankees. You know, Juan Soto's in town now, but I want to go be a Bronx Bomber. I'm going to go on a limb and say that's far from happening. I think a lot of Yankees fans believe that they don't even want Pete Alonso. So right now, I would say barring changes, things are still favoring the Mets in their pursuit of bringing back the Polar Bear. I know that's contrasting to one of Steve Gelb's of SNY, but from one gut feeling to another, as someone who was initially pessimistic on the Alonso front throughout the entire regular season, heading into the postseason's end before he obviously blossomed there that we saw against Devin Williams, who is now a New York Yankee, funny enough, in that big trade that we saw. Great move for the Yankees as well. They get one of the best changeups in the game, one of the best closers there that they can now pair with Luke Weaver in a setup situation, however they want to go about matchups. We have Clay Holmes. They get Devin Williams, another guy to be batting practice for Juan Soto and Pete Alonso come the 6 games of Subway Series this 2025 season. But all jokes and somewhat seriousness aside, let's highlight not only Alonso, but how the Mets are doing something unbelievably special, and they're doing it for someone who, in my opinion, is more deserving of this than anyone else, and that is David Wright. Exclusive, folks. It is officially happening. This was initially broke unofficially over the past couple weeks, but it died down with all the rumors going on with Soto. But news, according to Anthony Como there, of obviously on the beat through MLB.com for the Mets are planning to retire David Wright's number 5 and induct him into their team Hall of Fame before July 19th game at Citi Field, per sources. Beyond excited to see this happen. It looks like it's going to happen there on that July 19th game. As we highlighted, the tickets are already beyond astronomical to try to go there for the game. Even for nosebleeds are well over, like, I think a 125 to 100, a 150, or going through a second source like a SeatGeek, not a sponsor, a TickPick, what have you, everybody. But the fact that this man is finally, and I cannot emphasize this enough, is finally getting his flowers is one of the best things that happened. We all were beyond ecstatic with how right away Steve Cohen paid homage to the players who have paved the way for this organization over the years. With the Old Timers Day a couple years ago, with all the tremendous inductees that we have seen now in Mets history, most recently Doc Gooden and Gerald Strawberry from this past year. But now to bring in someone of the legend himself, to David Wright, to have him in here now, to be cemented forever in Mets history, is something that, as a Mets fan who grew up idolizing David Wright as our unsung captain, we all defer back to not only that tremendous home run in 2015 against the Dodgers in the World Series, but all just the acrobatic catches there at third base, where even though David was not known for having the best defense, he was so, again, in similar ways to, I think you can even argue, Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter's defense was garbo, but you think of, again, the Jordan-type catches he makes, and you think of, again, the behind the back without looking snow cone catches, the barehanded catches that David Wright is making in foul territory there, or in shallow left field there, bolting to get those pop-up outs. David Wright flashing the leather there. A tremendous bat over a 5+ year span before that back really became a major problem for him. David Wright is cemented now in Mets history forever, and when you think of all guys in Mets history that are deserving of having their number retired, you can make the rightful argument that there are few players more deserving than David Wright and his immediate impact that he has had and will continue to have on this Mets team. You know, when I think about my startup as a Mets fan, going back to, obviously, for those that don't know, I was born in the year 2000, right? So I'm a young Mets fan in comparison to some of you other guys watching, or certainly an old head in comparison to others too. But David Wright was one of those players that, even when I didn't fully understand the game as a young kid, and when I was attending games with my dad each and every year there back at Chase Stadium before they obviously tore it down and brought in Citi Field, I always looked at David Wright as just this otherworldly being. I looked at him as something far greater than maybe what he was, but he was just a small town kid from Virginia that the Mets took a chance on, and he went on to do tremendous things for them for years on end. David Wright, that gorgeous swing there, everything that he has done for the organization throughout the years, the hospitality impact, and just the selflessness. There is no one that embodies being a captain, being a Met, and being a leader more that I've ever seen in my fandom for any sport, for the most part, for my favorite teams, than what David Wright exemplified in a lot of the dog day years for the Mets as well. Now passing the torch from one tremendous captain, a true leader, into what is now become and has blossomed one, and Francisco Lindor. Hopefully we can look down 15, 20 years from now, Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto's numbers being the next there to hit Citi Field for the foreseeable future, to be forever cemented in Mets history. David Wright, thank you so much for everything that you meant for this Mets organization. I cannot wait to get choked up on July 19th like the hundreds of thousands of you Mets fans will do exactly the same, and simply put, it is chef's kiss that finally we are seeing the man be cemented and appreciated the way that no other player that you could even argue in Mets history deserves, in the way of David Wright. That'll do it for the video, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. Let us know your big reactions to it all in the comments down below on the latest with Juan Soto, Polar Bear Pete Alonso, David Wright, and a big question for you all as I'm going to wrap this one up. What player do you expect the Mets to land next this offseason? I asked it to Wolf Salmon of The Athletic in our live stream last night. What position do you see the Mets landing next? A reliever, a starter, a position player? And secondly, what player do you think the Mets are going to ultimately land? Let's hear it, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you all in our next live stream, either later tonight or sometime over the next 24 to 48 hours. We may have a little bit of a lighter weekend as we have some things coming up, but obviously when breaking news happens, key reports, we will cover it all on the platform as we do each and every day on WardyNYM. Thank you guys as always, and no matter what, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.